What is the Blue Crown in Outer Banks Season 5? Its powers explained. Warning: major spoilers for Outer Banks Season 5. The Blue Crown is the legendary artifact at the center of the final season. It is believed to grant wishes, bring immense favor, and even provide invincibility. Most importantly for Kiara, a legend says the crown can bring back the dead. But when she finally uses it hoping to bring JJ back, JJ is not resurrected. Instead, the experience gives Kiara a sense of closure and helps her accept his death. So, what exactly is the Blue Crown in Outer Banks Season 5? And does it really have supernatural powers? The Blue Crown has been one of the biggest mysteries in the Outer Banks universe since Season 4. At first, it looks like another priceless treasure. But as the story develops, it becomes much more important. It becomes connected to Blackbeard, ancient legends, the Poga's final treasure hunt, and, most importantly, JJ Maybank's death. The crown is the reason Groff betrays everyone. It's the reason the Pogas continue their dangerous journey. And it's the reason Kiara eventually begins wondering whether there might be a way to bring JJ back. But here's the biggest question. Does the Blue Crown actually have magical powers? Let's break down exactly what happens. What is the Blue Crown? The Blue Crown is described as one of the most sought-after artifacts in the ancient world. According to the legend, the crown has been connected to powerful rulers throughout history. It was supposedly worn by people including Darius the Great of Persia and Julius Caesar, and its reputation grew because of the extraordinary power attributed to it. John B. learns about the crown through his father's research. According to the historical legend presented in the show, the artifact is believed to grant wishes, bring immense favor to its wearer, and provide a form of invincibility. And that immediately makes it much more valuable than the gold the Pogas have chased before. The Royal Merchant gold was worth hundreds of millions of dollars. El Dorado was legendary. The Cross of Santo Domingo was priceless. But the Blue Crown is different. It's valuable because of what people believe it can do. And that's what attracts Groff. How do the Pogas find the Blue Crown? The crown hunt begins with a mysterious amulet connected to Blackbeard. The Pogas initially believe the amulet may simply be another piece of treasure. But they discover an inscription hidden inside it. The inscription provides directions that eventually lead them toward the Blue Crown. John B. and the others investigate Blackbeard's history and discover references to an artifact that was believed to have disappeared centuries ago. The trail eventually takes them to Morocco. There, they discover that the crown is hidden inside a massive statue. And this is where the Season 4 finale becomes extremely important. JJ is the person who actually retrieves the crown. He climbs the statue during a dangerous sandstorm and manages to find the artifact. For a moment, it looks like the Pogas have won. They found the treasure. They survived. And they're going to make it out. But then Groff arrives. Why does Groff want the Blue Crown? Groff has been obsessed with the crown throughout the story.
He knows its value.
He knows its legend. And he believes possessing it can completely change his life. But Groff's obsession becomes even more important because of what happens with JJ. When Groff confronts JJ and Kiara, he forces JJ to choose between the crown and Kiara's life. JJ gives Groff the crown. But Groff doesn't let him go. Instead, he kills his own son. Groff then escapes with the Blue Crown. That becomes the emotional foundation of Season 5. The Pogas aren't simply trying to recover another treasure. They're trying to find JJ's killer. Netflix's own Season 4 recap confirms that Groff kills JJ and escapes with the crown. What powers does the Blue Crown have? This is where things become especially interesting. The crown is believed to have several extraordinary abilities. 1. It can grant wishes. The most basic legend surrounding the crown is that it can grant wishes. That's why it has been sought after for centuries. People don't simply want the crown because it's expensive. They want it because they believe it can give them whatever they desire. For someone like Groff, that possibility is incredibly tempting. But there is no clear evidence that the crown literally grants wishes in the way a magical genie would. The show deliberately keeps the legend ambiguous. 2. It can give the wearer favor. The crown is also believed to give its wearer immense favor or fortune. Essentially, the person wearing it becomes extraordinarily lucky or favored by fate. That fits perfectly with the mythology surrounding powerful rulers. But again, the show doesn't establish that this is scientifically or supernaturally real. It's part of the legend surrounding the artifact. 3. It supposedly gives invincibility. Another claim is that the blue crown can make its wearer invincible. This is obviously one of the most extreme legends attached to it. And it's one of the reasons people are willing to kill for the artifact. If someone genuinely believed they could become invincible by possessing the crown, they might do almost anything to obtain it. That's exactly the kind of obsession we see from Groff. 4. It is supposed to bring back the dead. This is the power that becomes most important in Season 5. After JJ's death, Kiara hears the legend that the crown can bring back the dead. And suddenly, the treasure means something completely different. For Kiara, the crown isn't worth millions. It isn't about power. It isn't about becoming invincible. She wants it because she wants JJ back. Netflix's Season 5 trailer deliberately highlights this legend, with Kiara asking whether the crown can resurrect the dead. That becomes the emotional motivation behind part of her journey. Does the blue crown actually bring JJ back?
No.
This is one of the most important answers in the entire final season. JJ stays dead. The crown does not literally resurrect him. Kiara eventually gets the opportunity to use the crown, hoping that its legendary power might bring JJ back. But there is no physical resurrection. JJ doesn't suddenly appear alive. There is no surprise reveal that he survived Groff's attack. And there is no magical reset of the Season 4 finale. Instead, Kiara experiences an emotional and almost spiritual moment involving her memories of JJ. The crown essentially becomes a catalyst for closure rather than resurrection. That's extremely important to the meaning of the finale. Why doesn't the crown bring JJ back? The simplest explanation is that the Outer Banks creators don't actually establish the crown as a genuinely supernatural object. In fact, Netflix's own explanation of the Season 4 mythology includes a very important statement from co-creator Josh Pate. There is no actual supernatural stuff in the show. That's the key. Outer Banks likes to play with legends, ghost stories, curses, ancient artifacts, pirate mythology, supernatural rumors. But the creators have generally kept the actual world grounded. So the Blue Crown's resurrection power is ultimately a legend, not a proven supernatural ability. And that's why JJ stays dead. Then why does Kiara see JJ? This is where the crown becomes symbolic. Kiara has spent the entire season grieving JJ. She desperately wants him back. So when she finally reaches the crown, she is carrying enormous emotional weight. The experience she has isn't really about physically resurrecting JJ. Instead, it allows her to confront her memories of him. She remembers their relationship. She remembers their adventures. She remembers the person he was. And she finally understands that bringing him back isn't possible. That realization allows her to move forward. It's a beautiful contrast. Kiara starts the season wanting revenge. Then she wants resurrection. And eventually, she learns to choose acceptance. What happens to the crown afterward? The blue crown ultimately loses much of its importance once Kiara realizes that it can't restore JJ. That's intentional. For most of the series, the characters have believed that the next treasure will solve everything. The Royal Merchant Gold would solve their financial problems. El Dorado would change their lives. The cross could make them rich. The blue crown could supposedly grant wishes. But none of those treasures can fix the biggest problems in their lives. Money can't bring JJ back. A magical crown can't erase grief. And revenge can't undo death. That's the lesson the final season is trying to teach. Why is the blue crown so important to the finale? Because it represents the final temptation. For 5 seasons, the Pogues have chased treasure. They've risked their lives for it. They've crossed oceans. They've fought criminals. They've been kidnapped. They've nearly died countless times. And every time, they believe the next treasure will finally solve everything. The blue crown is the ultimate version of that fantasy. It's supposedly capable of granting wishes. So if there were ever a treasure that could solve everything, this would be it. But the final season asks, what if there are some things treasure can't fix? JJ's death is one of them. The crown and Groff. The blue crown also tells us everything we need to know about Groff. He values the crown more than his own son. That's the defining moment of his character. JJ gives up the crown to save Kiara. Groff takes it anyway. Then he kills JJ. The crown therefore becomes a symbol of Groff's greed. He sacrifices his family for a legendary object. But ultimately, the crown doesn't save him. His obsession with it contributes to his downfall. That's one of the great ironies of the story. Groff spends everything chasing the crown, and it doesn't give him the life he wanted. Is the blue crown really magic? The show never provides convincing proof that it is. Its powers are based on legend. The crown is said to grant wishes, provide favor, and offer invincibility. The resurrection legend is especially important in Season 5. But JJ isn't resurrected. And the creators have previously emphasized that Outer Banks doesn't actually contain supernatural elements. So the safest interpretation is that the crown is a mythical artifact whose legends influence the characters, rather than a confirmed magical object. That's actually more consistent with the show's storytelling. The characters believe in the legend. Their belief affects their decisions. But the audience doesn't necessarily have to believe the legend is literally true. What does the blue crown symbolize? The crown ultimately symbolizes hope. For Groff, it's hope for wealth and power. For the Pogues, it's hope for another incredible treasure. For Kiara, it's hope that she can undo the worst moment of her life. But eventually, Kiara realizes something important. Some things cannot be undone. JJ died, and no artifact can change that. What she can change is how she lives with his memory. That's why the crown's most important power isn't resurrection. It's helping Kiara finally let go of the impossible hope that JJ will return. The final fate of JJ. JJ's death remains permanent. This is confirmed by the Season 5 story. Rudy Panko does not return as a living JJ, and the crown does not resurrect him. Instead, JJ's memory becomes part of the lives the Pogues build after the adventure. Sarah and John B eventually have a son and name him JJ. Kiara keeps JJ's memory alive through her choices. And the Pogues move forward while remembering the friend they lost. That is much more powerful than simply bringing him back.